it is. You start a project, you barely have time to get it done before you move on to the next thing. So everything kind of gets tossed on the bench and probably doesn't have a home. So tonight I'm going to find that so I can start on some more projects. Today we've got something, again, a little on the larger side in the shop. This is our Family Truckster. I can't even get far enough away to get the whole thing in here. So there you go. 2017 Flex. It's an SEL with the appearance package. We've had it about a year and it's been a pretty good family vehicle. In order to put it into use this summer, I have this hitch to put on, a Curt hitch. Yeah, I wanted the factory one, but it was a little bit too expensive. It was about twice the price. So we're gonna put this on, and while we're at it, we're gonna take off these excellent Continental, what do they call them again? Viking Contact 7 winter tires that I ordered up from 1010tires.com. They came mounted on the rims, balanced, lug nuts, everything ready to go. Adapters. They've been awesome. Great tire. Highly recommend it. They have actually a pretty unique tread pattern. I'll show you that in a second. Okay, just to illustrate what I'm up against tomorrow, I think I'm going to call it a night here, but the hitch uses those bolts there, which are what the exhaust hangs off of, and in order to get it past all of this tight clearance here with the lower bumper cover and the exhaust and everything, which is on same on both sides, just up in there. So the exhaust has to come off, and then that upper bracket comes off, and we're going to drop the exhaust as low as we can. There's the last hanger back in there, and it'll hang down. We'll support it with some jack stands. Bolt the hitch up to there and there using that hardware, and then it's on to wiring. Just like that, with a visit from the mayor of Milwaukee. The mounts on both sides are out. So tomorrow I will unpack that hitch and we'll slide it in. couple minutes here and just tell the story of the Chevettes. Seems like some people are pretty interested to know the car and the story behind it. It's been a big part of my life for several years now, and certainly a big part of Shopcat's identity. They are up for sale. I say they because there's an identical parts car outside, which features in the story. So who knows how much longer they'll be here. But the story begins back in early 2001. My wife and I were getting married, and my wife was finding it difficult to get through all the wedding plans when I had our only vehicle with me at work, my 1970 Pontiac Parisienne, rest in peace. So we ended up buying a 1984 Pontiac Acadian, two-tone blue, automatic from a friend for $400. And 3 days later, the engine, the throttle cable got stuck wide open, and it seized the number 3 cylinder. So it got a new engine, we did some other work to it. It certainly had its flaws, but that car served pretty faithfully for a number of years, and the fuel economy was just ridiculous. So we did eventually sell it, and around 2014, a good friend of mine, knowing that I had a soft spot for weird cars, and even worse if they were brown, told me that his neighbor was selling a 1986 Chevette, two-tone brown, 4-door automatic. It ran, but it had been parked in a field for 6 years, and they said it needed a tune-up and the rear crank seal was leaking. So I went out, looked at it. Yeah, it ran. Interior was really nice. A little bit of surface rust, but it wasn't terminal. So I hauled it home for $50. Got home, washed it, and found out that the reason for both problems with the engine was that the number 3 connecting rod had decided to abandon its duties in the quickest way possible, which was through the left side of the engine block. So it was actually only running on 2 cylinders, which is pretty impressive. My friend Clint will probably take to his grave whether or not he set me up. When I told him the news about the engine, he said, well, I guess you'd better buy my ice racer. So I did. That poor car was rusted beyond saving, but the engine he built for it was really strong, really good. So bought that. That's where these rims come from, and the motor that's in this car come from the heart of the old red number 76. Did a bunch of swapperoo, built that car up, and drove it that way for a number of years. So really, without making that deal, the project was a non-starter. So that was really good. Yeah, drove it for a number of years. Lent it to my little brother when he came back from university one summer. He drove it all summer, brought it home, said ran flawlessly the whole time. So that was great. Went to move it into the shop here, and it had no brakes at all. My little brother, not a mechanic. He's a fantastic violinist, amazing, but not a mechanic. So in the meantime, a master cylinder for a power brake car had gone from $38 to $138 if we can get one. So I just parked it for a while. And during that time, cruising Kijiji, I found this one, which explained a thing or two. People would often say, oh, I saw you driving around yesterday. No, it wasn't me. How many two-tone brown Chevettes can there be in this town? Well, now I know that there's at least 3. This is my friend Peter Steiner has a cream puff one like this. So I went out to look at that car. The plan was to just steal the interior out of it because it was a little fancier than mine, and get it running and sell it. When I got there, the car was ridiculously clean, and I kind of gave the guy a hard time about it having no rust, which he was confused. I said, you have no idea how much work this means for me, because now I had to take all the good parts off of that car and put them onto this car. So that became about a 2-year project while I rebuilt the suspension entirely. I worked at 3 or 4 different places during that time. The brakes were swapped over, the rear axle was swapped over, of course engine and transmission was swapped over, everything got cleaned up, shampooed the interior, redid the headliner, and that's how it's been for about 3 years now. Been driving it, and you know what? It's been a pretty decent little car. It really hasn't ever left me stranded at all. So that, in a nutshell, I guess, is the story of the Chevette, and who knows what the next chapter for it'll be. I'm definitely looking for a good home for it, somewhere that's gonna take care of it and not just smash it up on an ice racing track. The parts car, that can go on an ice racing track, but this one's way too nice. Underneath, like, it's staggeringly clean for a 1985 actually, Chevette. So, until next time, thanks for watching Shopcat Industries. Hi Briggs, did you come to help? What a good girl. Hi. You may recall, if you watched the last video, I found a bumper for the truck. This bumper, however, is a 1964 bumper, and the truck being a 1963, it actually mounts differently. 1963, I'll show you in a minute when this is off, but it actually uses 1, 2, 3 bolts each side, where the 64 and up uses bolts there. So I'm going to have to modify these mounts. Actually, any Ford truck bumper up to 1979 uses the exact same mounting points as this one. Of course, the shape's different, but it mounts exactly the same. So what I need to do is modify these mounts. So the bottom is not bad. I might have to just widen the slot a little bit. On the top, I'm going to use a 1.5 inch tubing spacer, just to fill in the gap between here and the top of the mount, but I have to drill a hole straight down there for the new bolt. I won't have bolts until Friday. They're kind of an odd size, so I'm waiting on that, but at least I can get everything mocked up. Alright, so here's the factory 1963 bumper mount. It's considerably different from the 64s, which are actually riveted to the ends of the frame. So I did not take the 64's bumper mounts off the parts truck. You can see here I've had to slightly just widen out the lower holes. I'll clean those up as time permits. For now, I just want to get this mocked up and prime and paint them so they don't rust further. You know, I don't mind this truck is rusty, obviously, but I gotta limit it. So now that the bumper is mocked up in place, so I can drill the holes for the upper mounts, I think we can see that when I took it to the press to straighten it, I maybe got a little overzealous and straightened it a little too much, but it's a lot easier to go back, bumpers being what they are, than it is to pull it out. So we'll look after that when the